What does Bord Iascaigh Mhara, Shannon Heritage, Shannon Aviation and Shannon Commercial Properties have in common that the same person would have a requisite expertise to be appointed to the boards of all of them, other than being a political insider? Can you explain how people are appointed to state boards? Did you interview Aaron Ford to be appointed to Bord Iascaigh Mhara?
We're talking about COVID-19 and its impact on the agri-sector, the agri-food sector.
Well, I mean, a lot of people have been talking about Bord Iascaigh Mhara here today and the fishing sector.
Yeah, and that's an element of it. But what has the appointment of whoever it might be to these boards got to do with COVID? I'm curious
as to how people get appointed and what the criteria is, other than maybe being a political insider.
Fair enough.
Minister?
I think, Deputy McNamara, if you were more interested in finding out information as opposed to grandstanding, you could.
I'm not grandstanding. I'm asking you a question. Why was he appointed to Bord Iascaigh Mhara?
You could find that information out very easily. There's a very clear process in place as to how appointments to boards happen. Somebody applies to the Public Appointment Service, Deputy McNamara. They then are interviewed in terms of their competencies, and then a final list after that is recommended to the Minister of the relevant department.
That's you in this instance.
Recommending the Minister of the relevant department. There's a standard process for all departments. The Minister of the relevant department in relation to their recommendations as to who the best and most appropriate people for those roles are.
So you felt he was the best and most appropriate person for Bord Iascaigh Mhara?
It's a very clear, transparent process which is in place for all board appointments, and one you should, frankly, you should as a deputy know very well.
So you felt he was the most appropriate person for appointment to Bord Iascaigh Mhara, based on his expertise in the fishing sector?
I've outlined very clearly the process, Deputy McNamara, in relation to how all board appointments are actually made.
Did you interview him?
Your question.
Did you interview him?
Deputy, I don't know that it's correct to be focusing on an identifiable... Sorry, Minister. Minister, please. Sorry. I don't think it's appropriate to focus on an identifiable individual outside the House who's not in a position to defend themselves here.
He was appropriate to appoint. I mean, the man has a proven track record in Connacht Gold Dairies. So, I mean, I'm not casting any aspersions on Mr. Ford. I'm asking why the Minister felt it was appropriate to appoint him to Bord Iascaigh Mhara.
Minister, do you want to make any concluding comment on that matter?
Again, Deputy McNamara, if you're taking the time to assess how board appointments actually are made, people apply, posts are advertised, applicants apply to the Public Appointment Service for consideration. An expert panel then actually interviews each applicant to decide on their competencies and their merits, and then a small list then goes to the Minister of those who are regarded as being highly and eminently qualified for final decision. It's a very straightforward process across all departments, across all state boards, and a very transparent one. And I've very clearly answered the question, and I've clearly outlined how the process works. Listen, Deputy McNamara, if all you're interested in doing is grandstanding here, there's no point I'm not going to be engaging in it anyway.
You were out of time before I came in. I think that Can Corley just allowed in the Minister. Well, all I can do is enforce the time limit now, Deputy. And I didn't hear the question you put, so I'm going to have to... It's over, this session.